Well, hi everyone. It's NSC Music and Arts from the Salvation Army, and it's a great opportunity today for me to introduce Mr. Tim Hudson, who is a Yamaha artist. And we're really pleased that as a trumpet specialist, a trumpet teacher, a performer, he's become a friend of us here at the Salvation Army in the Carolinas. And we're great to work with Tim again, and really pleased that he's able to accept the invitation.
When I start out, and really this is, yeah, I'm speaking from the standpoint of a trumpet player, but this goes for all brass players for sure. Um, I begin with some breathing. As I take my mouthpiece out and put it in the trumpet, I'm already starting to just take some breaths to inhale and exhale, just to get me in the right mindset of what it is that I'm about to do. So I'll do some breathing. That's of utmost importance. And what there are a number of exercises that you can do, but the idea is just to fill up the lungs to the fullest capacity and then let the air go in a relaxed manner. So just where you're just basically sighing, you sigh the sound so that you inhale freely and fully and exhale in a relaxed manner. Now, the inhalation, one exercise you can do, I call it the OK breath. You may have seen this, it's been around for many years, but you just form an OK and inhale OH and exhale HO. Just like that. Easy enough. And then you do the same without the hand, and the idea is to take in the same amount of air without the hand as you did with. Just like that. And then you're ready to go. Some people like to do a little bit of stretching exercises, just depends on how you feel. So you can do that and then get your instrument out. Some people buzz, some people don't. It's fine to buzz if you like, if you feel that helps you. That's fine. I don't do an enormous amount of mouthpiece buzzing, but it can be helpful. And then I go into the warm up. Now the warm up is basically just covering fundamentals, long tones, scales, and slurs. So long tones, it's just uh, what it is. I'll I'll start out and I'll just play something like this. And then just continue, excuse me, then just continue downward like that, down to C. So I do that just to get the air moving, get things warmed up, listening carefully for the quality of the sound, maintaining a very even, steady pitch. So this helps, especially with the quality of sound, with developing tone quality and intonation. Helps with control. So as you crescendo, hopefully you could tell what was going on. I'm crescendoing and decrescendoing. So maintain a very steady pitch as you do that. Um, After that, I'll do a little bit of articulation. And excuse me. So with the articulation, I'll just play, or actually I should mention lip bends too. Some people do lip bends, and that can be helpful. Again, I don't do a lot of them, but I do find it to be helpful. So we can just use the exercise that I just played, the G F sharp G, but instead of using the valve, I'll play it all open. So I'll use the valve first, and then we'll go with open. So it will be like this. And you bring the pitch down. Basically, you can say it's like saying the syllable and that helps bring it down the half step. embouchure to better focus on what's going on. So, as I said, I don't do that much, but this is, I find, can be quite helpful to certain players, and it's helped me over the years from time to time. So I'll do that, and then I'll do a little bit of articulation. I don't know if you caught that. I've got to switch back from the two mics here, so it picks it up. I was just saying that I do these lip bends, not often, on occasion, and I do find that they help. I've found they help with students and professionals alike. So I do recommend that you try that on occasion. Now I'll do some articulation work here. So basically, I'm just kind of taking you through some fundamentals that are so very important, because fundamentals, that's everything. We can sit and play various music throughout the day, but without the fundamentals behind it, we really can't play in the best way possible. So the idea is to play in the most musical way possible, and you get to the point where you have this freedom to play very musically with the greatest expression after you have covered all the basics and really established these fundamentals. And it's not like you learn the fundamentals and you're done with them. You have to do them every single day. It's like starting over again every day. Okay, just like a sport. If you're playing basketball, if you get pretty good at free throws, you don't just stop shooting free throws, because you're not going to be very good at them again after a while. So you have to keep everything polished, and you work on those aspects, especially that you don't do well. So you practice the things that you don't do as well to make those strengths. Michael Jordan, he said, I'll take any perceived weakness and turn that into a strength. And I try to do that in my own playing and with my students. Take whatever their weaknesses are. So they may be very good with flexibility, but the articulation isn't so good. So we'll keep that polished, but we keep working on articulation to turn that into a strength. And then all of a sudden, okay, we got to work on flexibility to get that where the articulation is. And we've got to work on tone quality and every aspect. So you just keep walking up the ladder to become a stronger and stronger player. Now, the articulation. I'll start out oftentimes with what I call poo tongue, like Winnie the Pooh, no tongue at all, where you just go poo or pa, and then follow that with the tongue, da or do. So it sounds like this. And that type of articulation, when you're doing the breath attacks, it will help so much with the response. I'm sure you've experienced playing and the note didn't start when you wanted it to. It's sort of a fa kind of a sound. So if you practice these notes without the tongue and then follow that by the tongue, again, that'll help focus the embouchure and reduce that from happening, the sort of the fa kind of happening. So the next thing, I'll do this with the articulation. So you see what's going on. I started out just with one quick articulation going da 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 da, and then I added one da 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 da. So I kept adding one each time. I would add one more and one more in order to allow it to the articulation to move quicker, and be free and nice and relaxed. So that's the idea. Now, I notice in your, I've got over here on the stand, on your level 4, there's a, where it says less practice, listed as A. There's a quarter, 4/16, quarter, 4/16, half. So you can apply it to that. So you can do the exercise that I just mentioned, and then you can go to your method here. And whatever tempo you like. You can move things along or slow it down. So I'll change it up just a bit. So that's where we are with the articulation. So basically, it's just getting the tongue warmed up, every aspect of playing the body. After that, I'll do some slurs. So lip slurs. Now, the lip slurs, to me, that's really the weightlifting of trumpet playing. So what we're after here is just, again, relaxed inhalation, free airflow. So as we play the lip slur, you can just make them up. I use various books. I've used, of course, Arben's. We all use that. The Lin, Lip Flexibilities book is excellent. The Earl Irons, 27 Groups of Exercises, that's an excellent book as well. But you can just make up your own lip slurs. Schlossberg, of course, the old standard. Now, oftentimes they start on C and then go to B and B flat and just walk down by half steps. And so on. So what happens is we all, most of these books, like the Lin, I'm not sure if you caught that. I've got to remember to switch over to these two different mics. I'm trying to get some clarity into this. I use Lin, Schlossberg, Arben, and the Earl Irons, 27 Groups. I mean, there's so many great books out there with lip flexibility exercises in them. But I often make my own up. Just be careful that you don't always start on the C below the staff and then go into the B and the B flat, and everything kind of lays low. Because if you're not careful, the tendency is for the chops, what I call, to set the chops too low. And what happens is, oftentimes, students will play this first note, and so the chops are set for that low C, but it isn't. They're not really prepared to play much higher than that. So what you want to do is you want to set the chops much higher. So that way I'm able to play the range of the trumpet without with maintaining the same set, keeping the aperture smaller without really thinking about the mouth. I mean, you don't want to get your mind on your mouth too much. It's just it's bad news. But the main thing is just to keep thinking of taking in more air and blowing freely. However, if you set the chops high, like I was saying, playing the F or the G at the top of the staff, play that first, and then go right into playing a lower slur, you'll have that set that I'm talking about, the higher set, which will help your upper register. Okay, I'll demonstrate again. So as I'm playing, again, things are set like this, and as I play higher, I'm not thinking of playing higher or lower, really. I'm just thinking of playing farther away. So we'll get into range in just a minute. I've already kind of tapped into it, but I want to definitely want to talk about range, endurance, and so forth. So I've got a list of some some fundamentals here that I just wanted to cover. So with the warm up, we're basically doing long tone scales and slurs, and I focus heavily on scales as well, and I'll single tongue, double tongue them, triple tongue, whatever you like. But you can that's the great thing about scales. You can just make up your own exercises and stay in the pattern. Just take something easy. Just take your C scale. So I'm just doing some different articulations on that, obviously, but you can choose one, stick with it, and play a pattern. The Clark Technical Studies is excellent for that too, working on like the second study that everybody knows, working on that single, double, triple tongue. Okay, so now with tone and intonation, you want to develop a characteristic sound on your instrument. So if you're a euphonium player, you really want to be listening to great euphonium players, obviously, such as DeMondre Thurman. He's amazing. I mean, there's so many wonderful players out there. Just listen, and we have access to um, the internet. We can YouTube. This wasn't going on when I was younger. In school, if I wanted to hear musicians, I had to buy a record. So you don't have to go out and buy records now. You can you can just YouTube and hear all these wonderful musicians. So get that sound and style in your ear. It's free. Take advantage of it. So I do a lot of listening to not just trumpet players, not just brass players, just to musicians in general across the board. I think earlier on, I was mostly listening to trumpet players, of course, a lot of Doc Severinsen and Maurice Andre and so forth. Um, but then eventually, I started listening more to um, Pavarotti and Yo-Yo Ma, and taking on board what they were doing musically, and trying to play trumpet in a way that I didn't sound so much like a trumpet player, but it was more my voice, so that I could play in a musical way and be really creative in that way as a musician rather than just a trumpet player. So I think that's the idea. So you work on these fundamentals, get them really solid, and then we're musicians first, and we happen to play the horn or the trumpet or the trombone, etc. So that's the approach I take with that. So listening, that's going to help you to define your characteristic sound, the sound that you want to create. You want to strive for maximum resonance with minimum intensity. So again, taking this big breath and using slow, hot air. Slow, hot air. So the air should be going through when you're playing, just something easy on the staff, something lyrical. You just want to sigh the sound and make this beautiful sound, very connected. Notes are always coming from a note or going to another note, or from a rest, going to another rest. So you want this idea of forward motion, this horizontal quality about your playing. As far as that goes, the quality of sound, you also want to keep the pitch down. With brass players, our tendency, especially as we play higher, as we go into the upper register, the tendency is for the pitch to climb. So, and we talked a little bit about range a minute ago. As I play higher, I don't think of going higher. I think of playing farther away. So if I'm if I'm going to play so-called the high C, the C isn't up here, it's out there. So it's C, G, C, and as we keep adding partials, those notes are farther away. That's all. Because notes aren't higher or lower, they're faster and slower. Notes are simply faster vibrations and slower vibrations. That's all. Because we call them high notes and low notes because that's what we see on the staff. So I'll pull some of your music here. So these notes here at the top of the staff, they're a little higher than the notes down here. So that's we're very visual, and we look at it in this vertical way, and then we hear a pitch that's higher than a lower pitch, so to speak. I mean, we have to have some way to differentiate, so we say higher and lower. But that's not really what it is. It's just if you think in terms of farther away, then it becomes easier. You play out to those notes, you play down and out to those notes, and think of playing down into the resonant center of the pitch. And that's what's so important, because as we play higher, the tendency is for the pitch to climb. We tighten up, press harder. Next thing we know, everything gets thin, and then nothing works. And then your chops are dead because you've been using too much mouthpiece pressure. So just take that as you will, but you might try to think in terms of higher notes as being farther away rather than going up. That will help you to blow through as well, blowing through the valve changes, blowing through the harmonic changes. So again, for instance. So all I'm doing here is I'm just blowing freely, staying relaxed, and playing out to those notes. Okay. Now, rhythmic and pitch accuracy. Use a metronome sometimes. Tap your foot often. Now, in a rehearsal, it's not such a good idea to tap your foot because it's going to sound like a stampede of elephants, right? So better just to, tap quietly in your shoe if you want to tap. But I do think tapping your foot is a very good idea. And that said, you might consider tapping your left foot, because the left foot, that's dealing with the right brain, and we're dealing with the creative. We're musicians, we're right brain people. So that's the creative side of the brain. So try tapping. It's a different feel when you tap your right foot and your left foot. So I recommend tapping your left foot when you play. The other thing is, be careful about getting your tuning slides out too far, dealing with pitch, because when we play a note and we're tuning, and we find that, oh yeah, well, that's sharp. You hear that's sharp or that's flat. So oftentimes we'll play it's sharp. Well, are you playing the tuning note actually how you play the instrument? So rather than just playing the note, bum, you might play sol, la, si, do. Just include that as part of a phrase. And then when you get there, sol, la, si, do, and hold that pitch out, bum. So you're holding it out and listening at that point rather than just playing it off the cuff and hearing where it is. So if you are sharp, perhaps look at the tuning slide. If your tuning slide is out already a good bit, then really you need to tune you. you need to keep things lower. So it's not just about tuning the trumpet. Where are you playing the pitch? That said, you can take your instrument and tap it, and that's the C. That's the open note. So then you can match your pitch up with that. And if your note is actually higher than what you're tapping here with a mouthpiece, then you're playing high on the pitch. All right. So dynamics. When you're practicing, and I mentioned this right at the beginning with the long tones, with the crescendos and decrescendos, just avoid the practicing the mezzo nothing dynamic level, where it's all just kind of the same, right? Let's really really stretch things. Let's play super super soft and have moments where you're playing very loud, but you don't want to play loud for, hours on end. That's for sure, because your lips get all blown apart. It's not going to work out very well. So um, be expressive. But I do feel that a good bit of the softer dynamic playing is very very important, critical really in playing. Um, Playing your lyrical studies, lyrical etudes, playing them at softer volumes, and also you can play something like the Conconi lyrical studies. Play them, or um, Arbans, or any of your method books, really, any lyrical studies. Play them with no vibrato at all and quite soft, and listen for pitch. So that will identify some intonation issues, and then go back, fix that, and then begin to be more expressive, adding vibrato, all the nuance with shaping the notes and phrases at that point, with the dynamic levels. So when you are using the different dynamics, of course, you want to maintain a really full singing sound at all times, not letting it get brassy and crass and and not nice. I mean, these are musical instruments. We're not construction workers. They're not jackhammers and bulldozers and things, right? Although sometimes in music there might be moments where you want to incorporate some of that. So always play with a good sound, beautiful sound. Be creative with that. Be sensitive. Technique. As far as technique goes, um, I have people, students coming to me and say, I want better technique. Well, excellent technique is this. That's really good technique. Okay. All it is how you, technique is simply how you get from one note to the next. Okay. Now, so you want to do that in the most efficient manner possible, right? You want to make sure you're using the slides for trumpet players, and for, you've got, well, the trombone, you've got the perfect instrument for playing in tune. Um, but you want to make sure that you are lining up the body, because to me, technique is also about posture, what we say posture. And I call it a stance rather than posture. So you want to find the balance within the stance. So you can have so-called good posture or this good stance for playing, but then you bring the instrument to you, and then the head goes down. So all of a sudden, you're going to create tension here when you look down. For instance, if you can do an experiment on your own. You can just sit tall with good posture, but then put your head down. Well, after a couple of minutes, you're really going to start feeling tension here. So the idea is to keep everything balanced. Everything is aligned. You want the body to be all in alignment, so that you can inhale fully and play freely. Okay. So find the balance within the stance. Bring the instrument to you. Inhale to the fullest capacity. Blow the air freely. Now, as far as technical exercises go, yeah, of course, Herbert L. Clark. I mean, that's the standard. Um, but there are many books out there now. Chris Gecker has some terrific ones. Um, Anthony Plogue. I mean, there's a lot of books out there that you can work on technique, of course. But I still use the Clark um, every single week with students in the lessons. We're constantly um, referring to it or working on them. And then you can take what Clark did, as I said earlier, and build on it. So it may just be written, but it also should be da 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 da, or ta 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 ho ta ta ta, or ta 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 ta, or da ga da ga da ga da ga da ga da ga da da ga da ga da ga da ga. So the point is you can keep changing things up for the same exercise. Not only that, you can put it in other keys. So you can do this. So I'm just going from major, and then I went minor and whole tone. I won't bore you with the whole thing, but you can. Well, maybe I should. Here we go. So all I did was I played it major and then minor and whole tone. And then you can work again using various articulations and make sure that you're always staying relaxed and blowing through the valve changes. Excuse me. Take care of the plumbing problems there. All right. So, we talked about range. I'm gonna in a few minutes. I'm gonna just kind of open things up to answer some questions. But one of the things you can do for range is just literally just playing in the upper register. So again, as I said earlier, you practice the things that you don't do well. So you can just take a simple exercise and play your F scale. Just hold out the top note. If you like, you can start on the fifth, because that might help with setting the chops higher, which we mentioned earlier on. So as you ascend, just play freely, and again, in a singing style. The so-called high notes, it's just another note on the instrument. That's all it is. Flexibility. Now, I do a good amount of lip flexibility exercises, as I mentioned earlier, and I guess I probably practice around 20 hours a week or so on top of my rehearsing and performing and so forth. And a good portion of that is lip flexibility exercises. Again, to me, that's the weightlifting of trumpet playing. And make sure when you're playing, it doesn't have to be something really fast, but when you approach the note, avoid the tendency to allow the pitch to change in accordance with how you approach the note, whether it's from above or below. So the pitch is the pitch, it's right here. Here's the C, here's the G, here's the C. Like putting cans on shelves. The shelves aren't changing. We put the can on this shelf and on that shelf and on that shelf. Okay. I would also recommend, as you go with the lip slurs, working on lip trills, and I will demonstrate that. So we'll start out slow, and I'll just quickly turn it into a more involved exercise. So you get the faster lip trills from just starting them out slowly. And in the Arbenz book, I learned to do that from playing Arbenz. I think it's page 42. Just G, B, G. Just put down 1 and 3 and play it slowly. And just gradually go quicker on these. But keep the the time. Make sure it's even. Avoid this. So let's keep it very even the whole time. So play those every day, and it doesn't take much. Just a couple of minutes of lip trills, just one note to the next every day, and you'll find after a few weeks you go, oh wow, I'm going a lot faster than I did a couple months ago. And I would recommend keeping a practice journal, and you can write down the things that you do and how fast you played something or how slow or what you were working on, what's uh, what the trouble spots are, what's coming easy to you. um, Go back and look at it as a little practice history, and you can learn so much from that. And you can go, oh wow, this is great. I worked on this and I worked on that and I worked that, and you go, but I haven't double tongued or triple tongued in 3 weeks. That kind of thing. So it'll remind you, oh yeah, I need to do that because it's so important to incorporate all aspects of playing into your practicing. Woodshed. When you get something that you're having trouble with, and let's see, let me pull up something from your packet here. This is this is from your level 8. Your information here. Let's say you're having trouble. Let's find something that you might be um, it might be difficult. Oh, here we go. So how about the level 8 on page 8, right at the top? It says Allegro, quarters 132. So I'll play that. Forgive me for the sight reading here. So now, when you're playing, if you feel like you're having trouble with something, with the rhythm or with the technique, whatever it is, then just slow it down. Slow it down. If the 4/16ths, if they're not coming out cleanly, then it may be that you need to work on your double tonguing. I was double tonguing just then, although that's slow enough to single tongue. Da 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 da. Either way, find out, and really there shouldn't be a big gap between your double tongue and your single tongue. So be able to single tongue very fast and double tongue very slow. All right, so there isn't like a shelf here where one starts and the other one, or the other one stops and the other one starts. So they should really be, you should be able to switch over. Um, Kind of interesting doing this without getting any feedback. But we're going to take questions in just a couple minutes. Listening critically to yourself is very important. I highly recommend that you record yourself and listen back. That's so important, just like listening to the professional players and try to copy them, but then record yourself and listen back. Okay, always working to play on a higher level. That said, you want to have this vision of how you want it to sound. And the vision is one of greatness. So you hear this incredible, incredible sound in your mind. That's what you should be hearing. Even if you've only played a year, you should be hearing as much as you can, a professional player, a professional trombone player or trumpet player, or whatever your instrument is. Okay, so you have that vision. And even though you don't sound like that, that's what you're hearing in your mind. So the idea is to hear what you want to sound like and then sound like what you hear, so that you're not just playing like a student and going, oh yeah, well, but I'm a student, I'm only in the 10th grade, or, I'm a college student, I'm only a freshman in college, or, baloney. So listen, listen, and play on the highest level that you possibly can every single time you play. All right. And the interesting thing is, the harder you work at this, and the more serious you are about it, the more fun it becomes. And whatever you get from playing music, um, whatever you get out of it, the more you put into it, the more return you have. So you make this investment and you get a bigger return. You make a bigger investment, you get a bigger return. That's the way it works. So I encourage you to practice regularly, stick to the fundamentals, but also make sure you're playing things that you really enjoy, that are fun. You know, pick something out, a solo, an etude, something that you sound good on and that gives you confidence. So do a little bit of that too, because if you only work on the stuff that you're not doing so well on, that can be a little disheartening at times. But just mix it up, have a varied practice regimen, and but do this um, frequently. Practice every day. It's no it's no secret really. The people who are the best at what they do, whether it be a musician or an athlete, whatever it is, it's generally the people that have worked the hardest. They've practiced more, okay? And they see themselves attaining this certain level. So again, have that vision of how you want it to sound. Do the critical listening, critical thinking. Know your strengths and weaknesses, and learn from your mistakes, okay? Um, and then at the end, like I said, just have fun, be creative, and enjoy it enjoy what you do. So I'm going to take a moment now to we've got another quarter of an hour, which is fantastic. I can do a little bit of playing for you if you like. I can play some examples from your exercises if you like. But I'd be happy to just take on any questions you have. So this will be the time to do that if anyone has a question.
Yes, Tim, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sam. I was just trying to find you on the box on my screen here.
All
It's
right.
good to see you, Sam.
Good to see you. This question actually is something that I've experienced with both. I've experienced it, and from a teaching perspective, I've experienced this as well. That at some point, I feel like some of my students reach like this mental block, where like it's almost like I can't get any better, or I can't go any further, or like a lot of kids, you'll say, oh no, this is too hard, it's not going to happen, kind of thing. So my question for you is, like, did you when learning, did you ever reach like a mental block where you're like, okay, I've gotten this good, this is about as far as I can go? And it's the same thing kind of for high notes too, like, they say, okay, this is as high as I can go, I can't go any further. And it feels like a mental block.
Right. I completely understand. And it can be very frustrating because progress is very much a it'll go up and then it'll just sort of level off. It's just a series of peaks and plateaus. That's what I was looking for. You'll peak out and then plateau for a while, and it'll just seem like you're not getting any better. And I specifically remember um, when I was an undergrad in college, and I was practicing 5 hours a day, and every day, 5 hours a day, every single day. And I thought, what? I'm not getting better. And I remember sitting there with my trumpet in my lap. I was on the third floor of the music building, and I remember looking out the window and just considering throwing it through the window because I was so frustrated. And had I been on the first floor, I might have done it. I don't know. but I was that frustrated with it, you know? But I was just at one of those plateaus where I just felt like I just wasn't getting any better. And I remember watching Michael Jordan playing with the Chicago Bulls, and one game in particular where he just kept shooting first half, and he just kept shooting, and he was not on. I mean, he was just missing shots right, left, and center. It was like nothing was working for him. And I just remember thinking, just pass the ball, pass it to Scottie Pippen or somebody. Let anybody else shoot, but Jordan, right? I mean, and Jordan's like the greatest ever basketball player in my opinion. But he was just not on, right? And he wasn't giving up. He kept shooting, and then I realized, oh, he's just working through this. He's trying to find it again. He's trying to figure it out. He's not giving up. He's being relentless, dog with a bone. It's like, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. So he kept thinking positively. He kept seeing that ball go in the hoop. He kept doing that. And then came out the second half, and it was like a different player. His mentally, the whole approach, whatever, it started working, and he was unbelievable again. So when I've had these moments where I just felt, frustrated, it's just not getting better, I can't do it, whatever. Look, if you say you can't, I believe you. If you say you can, I believe you. So it's the power of positive thinking. You really have to believe in yourself first, right? Believe that you can do it, because you can. We're given the gift of playing music. Now we just have to use the gifts we were given, right? And nobody ever said it was going to be easy. And in fact, you don't want it to be easy. If this were easy, everybody would be doing it, and it wouldn't be a big deal to be a great player. Wouldn't be a big deal, because everybody's a great player. So who cares that anybody's a great player, right? Because it's easy. But, in some respects it is easy, but getting there, it can be a long road. So my advice is just do not give up. Never give up. Winston Churchill, right? I mean, he made that famous. Never, ever, ever, ever give up. Believe in yourself. You can do this. So you just have to keep working and working and working. And again, having that vision of how you want to sound, and just being insistent on getting through that. So when you work that hard, eventually you're going to go, oh, figured it out. And it starts getting better. So as it's getting better, you practice hard because you're making progress. You keep practicing hard so that you don't level off so soon. Okay? And then it's going to level off again. And then you know what you've got to do? You got to practice hard to get out of that slump, right? To start getting better. And you keep practicing hard because now you're getting better. So the point is, you're always practicing. You're always working. It doesn't mean you can't take a day off every now and then and go, all right, I just need a breather. But to be honest, I don't take too many days off. I don't want to get out of shape for one thing, because it's such a pain in the neck to get the chops back in shape.
Yeah.
But that's my advice. And just again, think positively, encourage yourself, listen to others, get lessons from various people, listen to recordings, play along, play fun stuff, stay motivated in some way, and it will get better. It will get better, but you have to hear something greater than who you are. Because when I play the trumpet, I'm not hearing Tim Hudson. I'm hearing some sort of imaginary, person in my mind that's way better than what I can ever dream of doing. But I keep trying to play like that person. It's really perfection that I'm hearing. And I'm not playing perfectly, that's for sure. We're not perfect. Our instrument isn't perfect. So we're going to miss notes, which is fine. You chip a note. That's not a big deal. Not a deal breaker. Even at an audition, missing a note is not a deal breaker. Miss 100 notes, well, that's a problem. But a few things here and there, it's okay. Okay.
Hey, Tim, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
How have you kept yourself motivated? I mean, you have not been able to play with the orchestra. You're not being able to do any gigs. Or be in person with other people that are keeping you inspired, I suppose, for the last 3 or 4 months.
Right.
What have you done?
Yeah, this has been very tricky. It's new territory, really. And I had a moment at first. I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to really work on some things. And I was in my studio just practicing so hard. This was going on for several days, for 3 and 4 hours. And my oldest son Tom came in the room and he said, "Dad, why are you just grinding so hard on trumpet all the time? What's going on, man? You don't have anything coming up." And I said, "Well, I'm just trying to, work on some things and get better." And so I was doing this for a while, and then I started backing off a bit because there wasn't a performance or a rehearsal. Um, and then I just kind of backed off. I was playing every day, but I know some days I only did sort of my routine of 45 minutes and put it up and did a bunch of stuff with the kids. And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity now to spend some time with family, which I've done. And that in itself is very productive and very healthy. Now I've gone back into back into playing and diving in with that and woodshedding and working on some things. I have found a few outlets to perform. Um, Basically, it's just live, online stuff. Contacted some churches. I've done some things at my church for the online services, and there's a church where I'm playing a couple times a month for their services. So I have managed to find a little bit of playing, um, albeit it's not that much. But yeah, this is tricky and something that we're all still working through. Um, I'm thinking about doing solo recording. So I'm thinking, well, I need to. This is something I've been thinking about doing for the last 20 years. It's high time I do something about it. So I'm messing around with some literature and learning some new things, polishing up old things. So I am just trying to keep it as varied as possible. So that's a good question, but I'm still a work in progress on that, as we all are. Um, so yeah.
Thank you.
This is Ryan. I have a question. How long have you played?
Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
That's a good question. I started playing piano. Well, I was singing in church as when I was 2 years old. I mean, I've been singing my whole life. Not that I have this great voice, but just singing. I started playing piano when I was, I think, in the third grade. And I took piano lessons for about 7 years, I believe. Um, I started trumpet in the seventh grade. And I just signed up for a beginner band, and and I just really enjoyed it and kept doing it and decided, well, this would be cool, to actually be a trumpet player. I mean, how cool is that? Because um, it doesn't always feel like work. but to me, even when going back to practicing and so forth, if you can make a living playing and teaching trumpet or horn or flute or whatever it is, I mean, consider yourself very lucky. But at the same time, you can do that. Well, there are plenty of people doing it. There are hundreds of thousands of people doing that all over the world. So you can do that, teaching at various levels and playing on various levels. So depending, you decide what you want to do. So for me, Ryan, I just started like you as a beginner. Everyone's a beginner. We all start out. Wynton Marsalis was a beginner at one point. Can you imagine? One of the greatest trumpet players ever. Maybe the greatest trumpet player ever. And Wynton was a beginner at one point. That dude did not know how to play the trumpet. Can you believe it? Um, so how did he become great? He just practiced, right? So, yeah, so I guess with trumpet, I was 12 years old when I started. So, yeah, I've been playing about 10 years now. So, yeah. And if you believe that one. So, yeah, that's it, man. Any more questions?
Hey, Tim. Sorry.
Aaron, hey,
Hey,
how you doing?
doing good. Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to see
So,
you.
as a student, we hear all our life, practice, practice, and we talk about what to practice. but I was curious if you could give some insight about how you schedule your practice time, what percent you give to what, and how's that even changed over since
Yeah.
you first started to now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, with my practice, I will tell you this. I went to a Maurice Andre concert in 1986 in New York City. I heard him play a recital. It was amazing. One of the greatest recitals I've ever heard in my life. And I got to talk to him afterwards, and I talked to him about his practice session. And he said, yeah, I start out, I play a half an hour. He likes to start out at 8 a.m. He'll practice for 30 minutes, and then he would rest for 30 minutes. Practice for 30 minutes, rest an hour. Practice 30 minutes, rest 2 hours. Practice 30 minutes, rest 4 hours, and practice 30 minutes. So he would double the rest time. He never, or probably seldom ever practiced more than a half hour at any given time. Now, that works great when you're this famous soloist and you've got your whole day. You can just dedicate that trumpet to trumpet and practicing at those times. Most of us normal mortals, we have to do other things. You know, we have our rehearsals and our concerts and our teaching and online things or whatever, that we can't have those same schedules, families, etc. But my takeaway from that was I learned a lot about having shorter practice sessions, because at that point, I mean, I would play, you know, I would have a 2-hour practice session. And when I was younger, I would just practice and practice until I couldn't play anymore. I thought, well, then I'm finished, because that was a great practice session. No, I went too far. That's too much. You don't want to practice so much that you can no longer play, right? And in fact, if you practice and you're getting a lot out of it, you know, put a good 30, maybe 45 minutes, warm down a little bit, put the instrument away, and you're more motivated to come back to it. So little and often is a very, very good approach. That's a really healthy approach. Also, our attention span, you know, we're better off practicing, you know, in these shorter amounts of times where we can really stay focused, where you come out of the practice session, you know, 30, 45 minutes later, where you really felt like you got something done without beating the chops up, right? So the idea is to not overdo it. Just like an athlete, you're not going to run the Boston Marathon and then tomorrow I'm going to run another marathon, and the next day what's going to happen? You just keep breaking the body down, and it doesn't get a chance to repair. Or lifting weights, you know, you do it in sets, repetitions and sets. It's the same with trumpet. It's the same with trombone. It's the same with horn. It's the same with, I think, with most instruments. With percussion, I mean, you can't continue on and on and on and on. I mean, eventually you gotta take care of yourself so you don't have injury, right? So as far as the percentages of what I play, I base that on how I feel my level of performance is. If I feel like, oh man, my articulation, at one point, not long ago in my career, I felt like, man, my articulation is just not happening. So I attacked it and really went after that to make it better. So I just listen and keep working on all the aspects of playing. Is what I do. I just include all the fundamentals every day in my playing. And, you know, so it varies what I'm doing. And it also can depend on what I have coming up. You know, if I've got a Mahler symphony coming up, you know, I'm going to make sure that I'm playing things that are more preparing me for that. If I've got a solo recital coming up, I'm practicing in that manner to have more endurance. You know, because it takes more endurance really to do solo recital than a Mahler, as hard as Mahler can be. It's you know, it's as Ray Crisera said about orchestral playing, it's long periods of boredom with short moments of sheer terror. So I used to play with the NBC orchestra with Toscanini. Okay, so I hope that answered your question there. Another question? Anyone? I know we're running out of time soon. Chase, hey buddy, good to see you.
Um, you touched on this a little earlier about how we get so unmotivated and stuff. And me personally, I have all these method books, and I have my own like beginning of the day routine and stuff. But even then, after that, I kind of find myself not wanting to do anything, and I'm maybe a little burnt out from as much as I've been playing throughout this quarantine. And even when we're not in quarantine, like I found myself doing this when we were in school and stuff. What would you recommend if we maybe get bored with what we already have? Like I have good method books that my teacher has recommended to me that I got, but even then, after having them for a while, I get bored. And I have all these. I practice the fundamentals that it's always recommended to me. What would I do if I find myself not really wanting to do that any?
Sure. That's a good question. One of the things you can do, you can create your own performance. So put a recording on of some great brass group, just Canadian brass we all know and love. So put a recording of Canadian brass on and take the music out that they're playing. If you don't have it, get it. And play along with them. Put a recording of Beethoven 9, whatever it is that you want on, with Berlin Philharmonic or whoever you choose, put it on, crank up the volume, get your part out, and play the principal trombone part with Berlin, and have a little concert there where you just get in your practice room and you're going to play the first movement or the entire symphony. I actually, when I was your age, I did that quite a bit. I would play along with orchestras and chamber music groups. I would just get the music, put the recording on, and play along with it. So it's fun. That's one thing you can do. Get a new solo and start learning it. What haven't you done? Have you done the Creston and the David and Larson? I mean, you've probably done all these major trombone solos, but there's also probably something you haven't done. Right? There's lots of things out there. So choose that and start working on it. All right. Any more questions? I think we probably should wrap up pretty soon. I'm running a trumpet festival with a couple of friends of mine, the Charlestown Trumpet Fest, and we go from 1 to 3:30 today. So
yeah, Tim, thanks so much for preparing the workshop. It's been brilliant.
Absolutely.
Just to have you back again, and you've worked with the youth band already, but to see these guys again and meet some of the younger players as well, and just share your pearls of wisdom, it's always great. So thank you very much, and thanks to Yamaha as well, who have helped you to be here today and sponsor you. And we know that they've got some Yamaha Corporation of America music programs going on right now as well. So that's really good to know that that's happening. So thanks, Tim. And we're going to record this, and it's going to be uploaded so we can watch it back again. And it'll be on our Facebook page. So, yeah.
Sounds great. Take care, Nathan. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Everyone. All right. Take care now. Best wishes.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.